All right, welcome to episode. I don't know. It's up here, and this is Mundelein Minute, and this we're
50
talking
something.
about the October 24th, 2022 board meeting. If you're counting, it's board meeting number 3264.
Ooh,
I know. Uh,
got it. Okay.
the mayor counts every board meeting.
I know.
Yeah, it's all right.
Is when does the time start on that? Is like in the history of Moneyline or like
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay, got it.
yeah. So if you go back and look at some of the archives of minutes, it's noted in every single one of them.
We should find board meeting number 1.
Oh, that's
See
there.
what they talked about.
Yeah,
I'm gonna FOIA that.
I'm sure you could just ask. My name is Eric Schwenk. I'm a trustee in the Village of Mundelein, and I am here
Me
with
too.
Eric Schwenk, also a trustee.
I'm Kara. I'm also a trustee in the Village of Moneyline.
Hey there, it's future Eric. I forgot to say at the beginning of the podcast that this is my house and my cameras and microphones,
And you can
and
hear them walking around.
there's people upstairs, and there's no village money or any government money in the creation or distribution of this podcast. So, talking about last night's meeting.
Yeah.
Yep. Last night we
It's
did
a
the
long
whole
one.
it was. And it wasn't a crazy long agenda, but it sure took us a while to get through it.
Yeah, well that presentation was long.
The presentation was long but worth it, as was the liquor control meeting. We'll get
I
there.
almost went in mom mode last night. I was real annoyed last night.
Yep.
And you and I share this sentiment and we've talked about it before.
Yes,
We'll get there.
we'll get there.
Stay tuned. It's gonna get spicy.
Let's stick to the agenda. So we did, the call to order, the Pledge of Allegiance, approval of minutes just for the last board meeting. Public commentary. There was a couple of people who spoke. There was one person named Dave Anderson, and he is very upset. And his wife was in a car accident with a Bears player, Alex Leatherwood, and he is not happy with the way that the investigation was handled and who was cited and how it went down. And he was asking for relief from the village board. And I think our administrator, Eric Gunther, handled it well. Not only as the village administrator, but as a prior police chief, he understands how this
Last
legal
night you could
system
tell
works.
cops always be copping because
Yeah,
like he turned back into police mode
yeah.
real
When
quick, which
when
we don't
he
usually see out of him anymore.
Yeah, when
But
he tells us that he's not a cop anymore, last night proved that wrong.
once cop, always cop. Because
So,
I was like,
yeah, he
you know your
corrected
stuff, sir.
some inaccuracies in the gentleman's statement. And one of the biggest thing, I'm not going to get into anything about the accident.
Yeah,
Um,
it's an
what
open investigation,
open
and there's no room
investigation,
for us to comment on it, and there's no room for us to make an opinion on it.
correct?
It's gonna go to court.
And it's going to go to court. And as Eric said in the meeting, that's for the judge to decide
Yeah,
the guilt of the citations or whatnot. This is not something for the village board.
well, what we should care about is whether Gunther responded to the guy, which he did twice,
Yep.
and whether the follow up was there, which it was. So like
Correct.
in my perspective, like that's what we have control over is
Correct.
making sure that he's responded to in an appropriate and professional manner.
Correct. And
So
if there was an ongoing pattern um, of incorrect police investigations,
yeah,
that would be something that we
right.
would look into.
And this is really
Um,
too early to determine if there was any. I'm not even saying this. Like if there was any wrongdoing with the police department because it's not. It
it
hasn't
needs
gone
to
to
go through
trial
the
yet.
process
Yeah.
first. Correct.
Okay. End of rant.
Next was Alice DePiro speaking from Extra Space Storage. Well, she was speaking in the boardroom, but she's from Extra Space Storage regarding the storage tax that was on the agenda last night. And that was it for public commentary. Um, what was up next? We were supposed to go into public hearings, but we didn't. We went into the mayor's report.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
we
no,
went
no,
to the
no, no, no,
presentation.
no. Presentations award. So we went through Synergy's presentation, which is a apartment development, like super high end apartment development in Plaza Circle. Um, they expect to be occupied in 2024. I mean,
166 units.
which is relatively small for a apartment complex.
Yeah.
Right? You
I
know
mean,
this better.
it's pretty similar to what's going over on Butterfield.
Yeah. I will say that we talked about this a little bit that the presentation was well thought out. This building and these plans are well thought out. Trustee Wilson commented that he went to the one in South Elgin and talked to residents. Like, props, Trustee Wilson, and they're happy with the management company. They're happy. These look cool.
They do. I like the layout of the building. You know, I spoke last night during the meeting that I wish that there would be some mixed use. That's kind of what I
Yeah,
envisioned for Plaza
I
Circle.
know.
And that's what the plans call for too. But this piece of property, this development just doesn't work for mixed use.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I
keeping
also
it
think that this will generate some mixed use behind Plaza Circle too. That,
on
yeah,
the other
yeah,
side. Yeah. And this, you know, if we were to make it a mixed use building, um, we would lose a lot of the units,
mm,
and or it would have to become another story higher, which would not fit into the characteristic around the circle and around the neighborhood on
right.
the other side. So this just kind of works out with the layout of it and how,
Some
um,
really fun amenities, cool amenities in the
yeah,
building. I don't know if you want to talk about the specifics of the deal now or not, but um, I think, do you want to talk about it now?
go for it.
Okay. So you have always been like a financial brain minded person, and I was drawn to the financials of this deal in
Sure.
particular, because a few things stood out to me. One is there's a large amount of impact fees that are going to be generated from this property, a large amount, close to $1 million. Um, the
Which
other,
which go to the school districts,
the
the
library, the park
libraries.
district,
Yeah.
yeah. So this will be District 75, I believe. Um, and then also in terms of selling excess property. So we both campaigned on that almost 4 years ago.
Correct.
And this adds another $1.2 million of property that we've sold.
Yeah. So in the 3.5 years, we've championed. It's not like we did it ourselves, but we
Single handedly!
right. I wish we can't take credit for all of it, but it's been the will of the board to sell off this excess property and
Yeah.
not give it to developers, but to pay a fair market value for it.
Yeah.
And
I
we've
think
seen
this
that.
is $1 million. Seems,
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
1.2 million, and now that brings the sale up to 2 million for the land that's been sold since we've been trustees.
Yeah. So I mean, this I think was like kind of a win-win deal for everybody involved. And they want to build fast. We always hear why more apartments, why more apartments, and it's really what the market is dictating right now. And you and I have both lived in other areas of the country where that's normal.
In apartments.
Yes, that's
Yes.
normal. I was telling my mom last night that when I lived in LA, I distinctly remember this area near El Segundo that was exactly like Plaza Circle. And you had all of these residential developments, different owners, different amenities, different styles, different
Hmm.
looks, different feels, but the outsides all looked very similar, but the insides had different. It was different, right? You could tell they were different owners, but there was like common space in the middle.
Hmm.
And in that middle area, there would be, like whatever concerts, or sometimes a farmer's market would set up there, or you'd have like pop up shops, and it was kind of like a hub.
Hmm.
And that is what I think Plaza Circle is going to turn out to be. So other places around the country do this. And
Yeah.
like my mom said to me, she goes, "It's about time Mundelein caught up." I lived in LA. Oh my God, I'm old. Over 10 years ago. And that was the norm out there
Right.
then. And now we're just finally starting to get that sort of look and feel here. So,
Right. Yeah.
all right,
So
end
this
point.
is exciting because we
Or where you lived in Texas.
yeah, I lived in something similar to this in Texas.
Yeah.
I've lived in apartments in other parts of the country.
Yeah.
And as a realtor now, I can tell you that we have a decades long housing crisis, and we need housing stock of different types. So townhomes, apartments,
Yeah.
single family homes. We've added all of those. When you look at Pulte and Lennar out by Target, when you look at Oak Creek, when you look at the apartment homes on Butterfield, and now the ones at Plaza Circle, and there's places for this in our community that welcomes people that want to live here in different types of housing, and they can move between them as they see fit.
And in different times of their life,
Correct.
right? Like the developers highlighted that last night, is that, we tend to think of apartments as young people just starting out.
Hmm.
But what about people that don't want to maintain a house anymore, but they want to
Right.
stay near their grandkids, or they want to stay near family, or stay where their community is? Then this is a type of residence that works for them.
Right. Exactly.
So, and
Yep.
they are going to move fast. Did you hear his timeline last night?
Yeah, that they're gonna have shovels in the ground in the next week or two.
He said he wanted to pull
doing-
building permits today.
Yeah, to do demolition and get things moving. So,
Lord.
huge.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Um, All right. So next up was the mayor's report. So there's a meeting call for the committee of the whole for a tax levy. This is our annual meeting that we do at the first board meeting in November every year. Next up was the self-storage facility rental fee.
I'll let you rant.
Thank you.
I
So,
already ranted twice tonight.
see previous episode about self-storage. Well, last time was a self-storage fee. This was a self-storage tax. Although it does say imposing a new fee on tenant privilege, this is actually a tax
Yeah,
because
it's
it's not related to anything.
Right.
And we got rid of it last year when it was proposed because it was a fee
Yeah.
that should be related to an actual cost that the village has. So, I spoke against this. I don't think that it makes any sense to me. The money being received isn't going towards anything except for the general fund.
Right.
It's not like we're using this money to fund infrastructure projects like new roads or resurfacing or whatnot. This just is money to have. One of the numbers that got tossed out was that in the last 2 years there's been 60 calls for service from our police department or fire departments. But really, it was our police department.
Please, yeah.
And while that sounds like a lot for the several thousand units that are in Mundelein, while Mr. Gunther was talking, I looked it up, and there between 2019 and 2020, I don't have any other numbers, but there was 25,120 calls for service. So we're talking 0.0024, a quarter of 1% of calls were for these businesses. So I can't see issuing a tax on something like this. We don't tax other leases, residential or commercial leases. We do a small fee for leasing of residential property. I'm not sure if we do it for.
It's $12, yeah.
It's 40.
Oh, is it? Okay. I
Yeah,
thought it was
but
less. My bad.
as somebody who manages property in Mundelein, it's just part of the cost of doing business. But that's not what's being proposed here. This is a tax on top of the cost that's going to be directly passed on to the consumer, and I just don't feel that it's the right time or that it's going to the right use today.
I hemmed and hawed about this, right? Like, I feel bad for my husband during board meeting days because I know that I'm annoying. Because they
Because
weigh
you talk out loud?
Well, I talk out loud, and the decisions like weigh on me, and I know I'm irritable, and like, these decisions aren't made lightly. Like, I get your arguments totally, and like we both voted no, but I also get the arguments of those that were for it. We have to find creative ways to find income, and this was kind of one of them. I was with you. I just didn't know that the timing was right, and I just didn't know if it was like justified.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like an easy thing to do, and so we were doing it. We were just trying to grab to things that we could do. It didn't feel like super well thought out. Like, I don't know. We lost.
We did, yeah.
Loser.
Yep.
But now it's the will of the board to do this, and it will get done, and maybe those residents that are affected by it will see a rate increase. Who knows? We'll see how this plays out, I guess.
Right. So I was telling Kara that I came home last night and I had to remind myself, like you said, it's the will of the board that
we're only a person.
I'm only one trustee, that there's 6 trustees and a mayor, and I get to have my opinion and make my vote and, plead my case.
And lobby others right behind,
Sure.
lobby others.
We can do that too. But ultimately, when it comes down to the vote, the will of the board is how we move forward. And we lost.
And there's going to be no grudges, and we're going to move on, and we're going to work together on other projects.
Right.
That's
And,
fine.
The other trustees and I, after the meeting, we were still talking about, kids this and,
fine.
family that. And still just, we get along. We're a very functional board.
Yeah. Or able to have like a relationship, and I think those relationships drive progress and change going forward. And
Correct.
this won't derail it.
Yeah, no, just because, I may have been upset in the moment last night. You move on.
Right.
That's just the name of the game.
So, anyways, so it passed.
It passed. Bummer. So outstanding debt liquor amendment was the next one. We basically changed the ordinances to say that if you owe the village money.
I don't know why we didn't do this before.
Yeah,
That's
it
what I
kinda
kept
makes
thinking
sense,
about.
right?
Like, why would why is this new?
Yeah.
If you owe us money, we're not going to give you a new license.
Also, what changed? Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like what?
So if you owe the village money and you're applying for a liquor license or a gaming license or whatnot,
Yeah.
it's going to be on hold until you pay up. It gets added on, actually, is the way it reads.
Feels fair to me.
Yeah. So next up was the trustee reports. There was a couple of motions
Wait,
regarding.
when did we go into? Oh yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we started off with the community and economic development. With that committee, and there was a couple of motions regarding 205 North Archer and 250 Plaza Circle, which is that synergy development.
Yeah.
And
Name TBD.
named to be determined. So
Trusty schwank.
so I pointed out, I was like, I half-hearted but somewhat truthful joking that I didn't really like the name because it sounded like a school district.
Yeah.
And that it was
We
interesting
got enough
that
of those.
that
6 of those.
Kirsten and even the mayor jumped on that and were like, yeah, at first I thought this was something to do with the school. And
So did
I thought it was like some kind of intergovernmental agreement with an energy company at first until I started reading the packet.
Yeah,
So
did I. I was like, I don't. What does this mean?
it kind of is interesting because the name of the company that is doing all of this is District 250 LLC. So they already have the LLC,
Right.
but he did say they don't own the domain name. So we'll see what happens with the name. I still think it's a great development, whatever the name is.
Yeah.
We're
We're not going to deny it based on the name.
Right, exactly. That's not what we're here for.
Tough board. Tough board. That guy got in his car last night and was like, God,
Really? That's what
Really?
that's what you came to? Was the name?
all this time and energy into this presentation and you focus on the name.
Yep, exactly. So next up was the liquor control meeting / beating. And
Super annoying.
it is one of the most annoying parts of being a trustee. And
Oh my God, it's so annoying.
to see businesses come before the commission at this point, because you're not a trustee,
Right.
you're a commissioner,
Right.
to tell us how they got busted selling alcohol to a minor. And I greatly appreciate the ones that just own up and take responsibility. We had those last night.
Yeah.
That
golf course guy was.
The golf course guy was like, you guys do so much for us and we screw this up. And I was like, hey, cool. Thanks for owning up. Like,
But
I
it's
get it.
super frustrating because this is an ongoing pattern for the last probably year, 6 months to a year.
Last year has been extremely heavy in citations.
Which is so annoying because prior to that, we didn't have that.
It had been really quiet.
Yes. And I know there's a labor shortage out there. I get it. All of these things add up. But like, come on.
Yeah. So I have, for the past 2 years probably, been advocating to increase those fines. And every meeting now I am bringing that up, and I hope that the other trustees and
I think it's
get
just
on board, and
the three of us really. I think Soul supports that as well.
we just need to start doing it. I know that other communities in the area don't have higher fines, that we're
I
all
don't
somewhat
care.
the same, but I'm of the same mindset. I'm tired of it.
It's so annoying.
And I get that it's not business friendly, but if you're going to be unbusiness friendly on something,
This is where to do it.
let's make it on liquor licenses and not on self-storage fees.
Easy. Calm
Oh,
down.
sorry. So Pine Meadows, Bill's Pizza and Pub, and Graham Enterprises.
That was super frustrating to me.
Yeah. So the first two, okay, I get it. Mess ups happen. They admitted it. They'll pay their $500.
Props to Bills for
Yep.
thinking of some out of the box ways to prevent it going forward.
Yes.
They're implementing an app. They're not taking vertical IDs anymore, which good. You shouldn't be. Crossroads is doing the same thing now.
Yes. So we're starting to see that that's the new trend in Mundelein businesses.
Fine, then don't.
Don't take the vertical IDs. Just,
Also, like I could see you were taking them during COVID because the DMV was shut down. Whatever, the DMV is not shut down anymore. Go
Right.
get a new ID.
Yeah, you can go get a new one as long as it's not the one with a star. You can get it printed same day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's so much easier. Graham Enterprises. This one bothered me. I voted no on the fine.
I voted no on the fines last time, but I was like so annoyed last night that I was like, I don't even want to see. Like, I want this over.
Yeah. So the same gentleman was before us back in June for Graham Enterprises, but unfortunately, past board practice has been to treat each store as its own entity. And I followed up with a question to the gentleman and asked if they use the same training material. And they do. They use the same training material. It's the same corporate at the top. Like there's nothing.
It's the same guy we saw.
The same guy. Like nothing is different. We shouldn't be treating them as separate entities. They should be treated as a separate
Which is
offense.
what I brought up to our attorney last night. Like, why are we doing that? But, you know, like in true lawyer fashion, he was like, well, this is an anomaly. Like, we shouldn't.
There's only a couple of them. I get it. The
I get it,
Jewels,
but-
the Grams, there's only a couple. McDonald's, but
they
doesn't
don't
sell
serve
liquor
booze yet.
yet.
The ones in Europe do.
Really? Some Starbucks do.
Oh, yeah.
Even in the States. So it really upsets me to see so many.
So annoying. It
So
is.
many
I mean, you have a high
businesses.
school kid. My kids are little still, so I don't have to worry about that yet. But it's really frustrating. Anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
I almost mom lectured last night, but then I was like,
Although I would have loved to see another "I'll be damned" out of you, like with the smoking guy. That was pretty awesome.
thanks. for bringing-
So after the liquor control meeting, we went back to the village board meeting. Public Works Committee was up, and there was the 2023 street and infrastructure improvement. So this is the reconstruction section,
The big one.
the big one.
Big kahuna.
Yeah, and then there will be the resurfacing that we will bid out with other communities for joint resurfacing. We get cheaper.
Like in January.
Yeah, in January, and it ends up being cheaper because we do a joint project with other area towns, so that better pricing in
More roads. We can do more roads with it.
the Costco effect.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Buy in bulk.
Buy in bulk. Speaking of buying in bulk, buying police department vehicles, we bought 2 vehicles and we waived the bids to end up buying them from the same dealer that runs the joint program anyways. And
I mean, vehicle purchasing, we talked about this before. What a mess.
what a mess right now. Getting vehicles has been a nightmare. And when you have aging police vehicles, they need to be retired.
And they need to look a certain way, right? Like you got to have a white squad car.
Yeah, right. It's a certain type of vehicle, a certain type, look, everything.
Exactly.
And, we have to go out and buy those. So our public works department found 2 on a lot, and
Serendipitous.
yeah.
Oof. And the right color. They're white and they met all the specs for it. So
Right. So we end up buying those. The next joint program is not expected to open till next year.
I mean, we're still waiting for cars from ours from 2020.
Yeah,
maybe?
exactly. So they don't know when this new program is going to open exactly, what the delivery schedule or the pricing is going to look like. So we expect to save roughly 8,000 to 10,000 by purchasing
By being
these vehicles.
opportunistic and just doing it.
So we're moving ahead and buying some vehicles.
Leaves. Trustee Wilson touched on this a little bit,
Yes.
but I was on the negotiating team for this contract as well, so I can talk about it a little bit. We have a new contract with Groot that started 10/1, and that was leaf collection, and this is a sore subject for everyone. Everyone gets really mad about it, and everyone's frustrated, and whatever. So Tim and I both agreed that we needed to have some sort of like provisions in the contract that says if you don't perform, then you're going to be in trouble and we're going to slap your hand. And that was the first time this has been done, which seems to me like it should have been done before, but whatever. Tim and I got it done and Groot agreed to it and they're going to perform for us. So all of the trucks are GPS enabled. We have a guaranteed number of passes through the village with leaves, depending on weather. If it snows tomorrow and it freezes, we may be in trouble,
Don't
But it's not
say
gonna
the
be
yes
that.
word.
Calm
I don't
down,
want to
calm
have to
down.
censor this.
You should have to. You should bleep me on that. That would be good. So here's the deal. Rake your leaves. Don't put them in the street. Rake them to the curb. The truck comes. I don't know if you've ever watched the truck come and suck them up.
I have kids. Of course I will.
I was just going to say, I have kids, so we've watched them. It takes a long time.
It does.
And the guy doesn't just like use the vacuum. He's got to like get out of the truck and like scoop them all in and like make sure that it doesn't get clogged with sticks and stuff. And then they drive them to a field and a varying degree of how far this field is.
Right.
Right. So sometimes they have to drive them all the way out to Rockford.
Right.
It takes a while. So then they come back and there's a certain number of trucks. So like this is a logistical nightmare. And no one realizes that, right? Everyone's like, they just have to suck them up with a vacuum and throw them in the dump. That's not how this works. There's only certain fields they can go. Like, there's a lot of rules around it. I mean,
Yeah, it's a regulated waste.
it is. So it's complicated, right? And I feel like no one believes you when you say that, but it is. And after like sitting down with Groot and looking at this contract, it's complicated. We did the best we could do with this contract. I think they'll perform. We've had good weather. It's been windy and now it's rainy. That's like perfect. Like leaves should fall, so get them out there. They can suck them up, or leave them on your lawn. They're good for the grass.
They're good for the grass and the little creatures that live in there.
Controversial statement, but they're good for the grass.
Whoa, right.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, that's the leaf update.
All right. Next up was Finance Committee. So we did the governing body bill approval for $993,725.94. So that's a pretty standard amount for our finances. We did separate out from that a separate bill for Trustee Ross. So there was some expenses for her Illinois Municipal League conference attendance. So we separated out $385.07 for her, so she could abstain from that. And I that's not a normal amount. Usually we talk in thousands and hundreds of thousands. And I was like, don't screw this up. Don't screw this up. $385.
End of statement.
That's it.
Don't reimburse her $385,000.
Right, exactly. Because we usually do much bigger numbers. Yeah. And that was it for finance. Up next was Public Safety Committee. So Kenneth Griffin is making a donation to the Village of Mundelein for the fire department and some
in memory of his grandma.
In memory of his grandma. So we had to, because it's a large amount, we had to approve that. So we did that. Fire alarm monitoring agreement with FSS Technologies. That passed.
I have struggled with that.
Yes. Nothing from the Chiefs.
No.
Yep. And then
I will say, hold on really quick, because I talked to Lark afterwards, the fire chief. Can we be careful when we drive, please?
Stop flipping cars over?
Well, not only that, but he said that the number of accidents they've responded to lately has been like more than he's seen in his.
Yeah. Every board meeting now, we have the conversations just being friendly.
Like, how's it going?
Yeah, the how's it going conversations. And the last couple of weeks I've been like, is it just me or are things busy? And he's like,
he said this will be a record year for them.
Yeah, the number of calls has been astronomical.
Yeah, so just be careful when you're driving.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So
this is going to be awkward.
So this is awkward, but the camera died.
So we're talking about the fire department being really busy, and I was scolding you to drive safe, please.
Yes. That was it for public safety.
Other than scolding you.
So, while the camera cut off, we talked about how there was no building committee report. And we also talked about the Plaza Circle design and how we are spending a not to exceed $25,000 to Kimley Horde and Associates to have a design created for Plaza Circle.
Right, which is good because we talked about this at the beginning about how this will eventually look, and you and I just were talking about we think it was done 10 plus years ago.
I mean, it's around that time.
It's around that time frame.
Yeah, it hasn't been full 10 years, maybe 8 of moving moving Village Hall into the new Village Hall.
Right. And now things are starting to redevelop there, and things take time, and now like the ball is rolling, and hopefully this will continue a trend, and the look that was designed for this area will finally be achieved. And it's kind of cool to see that happen, right?
Yeah, and that we're running out of real estate. Plaza Circle only has so many lots left.
Yep.
And that there's going to be some openings. There's some property for sale in Mundelein, in the downtown area. Some of the banks or the village-owned property of the water building. There's a gas station. There's some parcels that can be combined, but we're going to run out of land.
But like, what a good problem to have, to know that we can help get rid of all this excess property that is on the Village Circle.
Right. The excess property that the village has, and redevelop some property that
into useful land.
Correct. Some new use.
So. All right.
So that was it. There was no other reports, no omnibus vote items, nothing from any of the administrator, attorney, or clerk, and no executive session. And we were done by like 8:35, 8:45, somewhere in there.
It's quick. It's fine. It's fine.
It was a good meeting.
Yeah, that's it. Rake your leaves.
Rake your leaves.
What else do we say?
It's no more car accidents. Please drive safely, and stop selling alcohol to minors, please. That was our 3 from Mundelein's moms.
Mundelein's moms. We'll just make you a mom.
Thanks.
Seriously, I feel like I'm scolding people, but that's good to know. And Halloween trick or treat is from 4 to 8 on Monday.
8, and you're going to be a unicorn.
Always
A unicorn.
That's how I live my life.
All that sparkle. And
you're going to be an astronaut.
Yep.
Fly you to the moon.
Fly me to the moon.
All right.
All right. Well, we'll see you she'll see you in the next episode. I will not. I'll see you around Thanksgiving.
Cool. Take care.
Bye.